A recent YouGov poll of British adults found that 77% don't know much, if anything, about Islam. Nevertheless, 7 out of 10 believe that Islam represses women, and more than half associate the faith with extremism. Does Islam need better PR? Well, Christiana Becker, you are the face of a poster campaign that's currently ongoing in London, which is showing another side of Islam, trying to promote a more positive side of Islam. Why do you feel this is necessary?
Because the perceptions of Islam and the true values are so different. There's an enormous gap. Before I became Muslim, I had the same perceptions as everybody else. However, when I looked beyond the headlines and, and the prejudices, I found a religion that makes sense, that is beautiful, that contains, the same ethical values as Christianity or Judaism. Did you know, for example, that Jesus is a prophet of Islam? So is Moses and Abraham. There's a whole chapter on Mary in the Quran. Prophet Muhammad was a women's rights champion, a social reformer, an environmentalist. We don't know all of this. Absolutely. You're looking puzzled. We don't know this. This is just not known. I think the true values of Islam are the best hidden secret, and it's time we pull the veil on it and come out and show the positive values. When I tell any of these things that I've just mentioned to my producer on television, you know what he says? My God, Islam needs PR.
Gisa Sagal, there you go, a completely different view of Islam that most of us have, as we heard in these statistics, and most of us think that actually represses women. Christiana's telling us a completely different story, which is a great argument, surely, for having a PR campaign to inform people.
I think that religions don't need PR campaigns. I think Islam is growing very rapidly, and of course there are many versions of Islam that people are converting to. And the problem is that the perception that it is associated with repression and so on, it's particular Muslims who are associated with repressing women. We're talking about the Taliban. And, there's been a lot of sleights of hand, a lot of language problems, as somebody said. We talk about civilian casualties. Who most of the civilian casualties caused by? By the Taliban. We have a very complex message from our Afghan friend here. I'm not saying that is Islam. Exactly. The point is that I think what needs to be brought out, if a PR campaign is necessary, is that the people who suffer from the extreme interpretations of Islam are Muslims. Those are the people in the front line of suffering. And it's people who are being killed by Taliban bombs, who are the civilians of Afghanistan who are suffering.
So what you're saying, that Christiana's kind of missing the point, or she's glossing over, or what?
I think that they're trying to do something that they feel is necessary. Unfortunately, for instance, for me, when I look at a Muslim, among my friends, my family, people I work with, I see a mirror image. I'm not seeing some alien other. I live in a culture which, I come from India originally. That's one of the largest Muslim countries in the world. It happens to be a minority, but it's still one of the largest Muslim populations. I'm very familiar with everything that she's talking about
But
Islam,
you're not typical.
I'm very typical of many people, and I think there are two problems with this campaign. One is that in appealing to Judeo-Christian traditions and talking about an abstract idea of Islam, as opposed to the real perceptions of real problems that people know that there is rising extremism, that's also converting people.
Okay, Christiana, and then maybe I'm going to bring
and it cuts out, I'm an atheist from a Hindu background. Many Muslim traditions are absolutely rooted in India, culturally, and my Hindu relatives worship
I'm somewhat
at the same
entirely sure,
shrine.
Gita, why you've got a problem with this campaign.
I'm saying that it evades the question.
It evades the question. Okay, it evades the question.
First of all, we have to realize Islam, like any other major religion, is not a monolithic block. There are many different interpretations and many different streams. Now, the violence of a few fringe extremists, which act against the teachings of the Quran, that is the problem. Overshadow the entire media discourse. The vast majority of Muslims condemn these actions, are against them, and live a completely different, beautiful version of Islam, where social equities, social justice, all this, being kind to the weak, the care for the elderly, all that is part of our value system.
Peter Whittle, is this a vision of Islam that you recognise, and would you like to be introduced to it?
Listening to you, it's like you're living in fairyland. Frankly, I don't see why any religion, I'm an atheist, I don't see why any religion should have a PR campaign, which has actually been, I think, directly or indirectly funded by government money, by public money.
It's not. It's entirely funded by private donations.
Right, but it is actually been promoted by tax-funded organisations. Why should this happen? Some of the points that are made are sort of so absurd that they almost are surreal. The idea that, for example, women in Islamic societies are not repressed is quite extraordinary. Now, for example, talk about this country, for example.
Nobody has said that.
Look, nobody...
I said the values of Islam are pro-women and pro-men. Don't judge Islam by Muslims.
You said Muhammad supported...
Absolutely, he did.
But I
hang on, just a second. Let Peter finish his point.
It doesn't make the point. This campaign doesn't make the point about how he married a girl at the age of 6 and consummated at the age of 9. No, it doesn't make that point. But the fact I would make as well, and this is a very personal point, is that as a gay man, for example, a big survey done by Policy Exchange a few years ago, it was done by Munira Mirza, who is a Muslim. Right, she was from a Muslim background, and you know it.
She's an atheist.
And the fact is, it found that 71% of young Muslim men, 16 to 24, right, thought that homosexuality should be criminal. Now, how are you going to put a PR spin on that? How do you do that?
Well, Peter, I'm delighted you're here because you're the very reason Islam needs a PR campaign, because people like you talk so much drivel about Islam and Muslims. That's why we need a PR campaign.
Everything's
nonsense. Like that. Some Muslims want homosexuality criminalised. Guess what? Some non-Muslims do too. Go to some pubs around here. Listen,
I don't agree with that either.
But you don't judge a people or a community or a faith on the basis of an extremist minority.
That is not an extremist minority.
Of course it is.
That's 70%.
Of course it's a
70% of 16 to 24-year-olds think that being gay should be criminalised. That is not a minority.
So that means that Islam doesn't have any PR problems, according to you? That doesn't mean that the media don't exaggerate the fears of Islam? No, I'm asking, you said we live in a fairyland, right? I live in a land where the newspapers can say whatever they like about Islam and Muslims, where tabloid newspapers go after people all the time. Their Daily Express has either Princess Diana or a woman in a burqa on the front page every other day. There's about 2,000 or 10,000 women out of 2 million who wear burqas, okay? There is an absolutely open campaign of demonisation against Muslims amongst sections of the right-wing press and think tanks like Policy Exchange, sorry to say. You cannot put your head in the sand and expect Muslims to say, oh no, sorry, we're going to ignore this. And actually, let me just make a wider point. Okay, last time I came on the programme, I actually came on to make this point, to say the media actually treats Islam badly. What I came today to make the point was actually, we can't blame the media for everything, we can't blame people like Peter for everything. Actually, Muslims are to blame for a lot of the problems in Islam, which is why Islam needs a PR campaign, not Muslims who bring it into disrepute. And that's a very important point.
Well, Christiana made a very good point that was based on that, and I must just say a word for Daily Express. I know they do cover these stories, they also cover other stories, and don't get me into trouble.
Thank
you very much.
The Cardiff University School of Journalism found that's not true. They disproportionately focus on Islam.
Christiana, but you made a comment there that was very interesting. We should not judge Islam by Muslims.
Since I had to learn when I converted to Islam, there's yet again, it's a major religion with a lot of different cultural expressions. So some people live their Islam in a different way than I, as a European, live Islam, and that is the beauty of it. It's open to interpretation.
Yes, that's the key.
But you see, exactly, and you see, the point is, for social harmony, for cohesion, for in our multicultural society, it is very important. We try to understand each other. We try to understand the other person's value, the other person's viewpoints.
If the Catholic Church had, and I'm, as I say, an atheist, if the Catholic Church had a PR campaign, the fact is it would be laughed out of court here. It would be considered...
Yes, it would. The Catholic Church
would be considered to be wrong. Why this should suddenly be, or if a Christian,
okay, Peter, well, I mean, Anne, Peter, I think, has an exception to any faith having a PR campaign. Would you share that view?
We live in a media...
I think this PR campaign is absolutely great. And the reason, one of the reasons I think it's great is because information and knowledge and understanding is always good of anything or anybody or any group. And I'm feeling particularly blessed at the moment. I thought I knew quite a lot about Islam. At the moment, we've got a Muslim living with us, and I'm learning so much more. And I'm so glad he's come to stay with us, because I thought I knew about Islam, and now I know much, much, much more about it. And I mean, I love your point that we shouldn't judge Islam by Muslims. Christianity shouldn't be judged by Christians. We're all sinners, you know. And getting out what the message is supposed to be is always a good thing, and the gay rights campaign has done fantastic work.
Can we ignore facts like in Saudi Arabia, a largely Muslim country, women aren't allowed to drive, and then on the other hand you're saying...
And that's wrong, and I think the voices...
But then it's very difficult for people to understand the message that Muhammad believed in women's rights.
In Christian countries, until a century ago, a lot of women didn't vote, and yet Christianity has been responsible for the feminist movement. You know.
Hang on, Gita, and then Tamina.
I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I don't think the PR campaign is the right way to go. Because the point is, if you're trying...
understand, and people explain, you say, don't explain it to us.
There are different types of understanding. And the types
how do you foster dialogue?
I'm trying to make my point, which is that the practices... I think it's a fundamental point that you're saying don't judge Islam by Muslims. Religion is always an abstract. I think you do judge what people do. And of course, all Muslims, at the point I made, don't do the same thing. They're attacking each other. And there's very little support. Well, I'm not a Muslim.
Okay, hang on, let's not attack Gita. Finish your point.
And the fact is that there's a huge tolerance in this society for very extreme groups, which are in the Respect Party, in the Stop the War Coalition, in the East London Mosque, the Jamaat-e-Islami, the Muslim Brotherhood.
What message do you think they should be putting out?
Who attack Muslims who are standing up against extremism and practicing an Islam that is not extreme. The shrines of Muslims are being bombed by the Taliban in Pakistan.
Tamina, hang on, please, just a second. Tamina.
In 2007, the Greater London Authority released a report which said that in 1 week in 2006, over 90% of media articles that referred to Islam and Muslims were negative. And this is why the PR campaign is a fantastic step, very, very positive step. And just 2 weeks ago, we had this group, Muslims Against the Crusades, disrupting the homecoming parade of the Royal Anglican Regiment. Now, I've lost count of the number of media articles that say Muslim protesters this, Muslim protesters that, without making it extremely clear that this is a fringe minority group, and that the vast majority of Muslims do not agree with what they're doing.
But do the majority of Muslims not need to get that message out to distance themselves very publicly? Hang on, Peter.
The problem is that I would agree, yes, that you do have to make that distinction, and you do have to get the message out about the majority of moderate Muslims. But in that case, we should see some demonstrations sort of not in our name, that this does not happen. This does not happen.
I organised it myself, actually.
Okay. They are not on a mass scale.
Benjamin, and then I'd like to hear what our audience think about this.
My name is Benjamin Obadiah Iqbal Zephaniah. It's Jewish, it's Christian, and it's Muslim. But I actually believe in God without religion, just stating my position. But I think it's very interesting that Islam is one of the biggest growing religions in this country. With everybody saying how bad it is, how bad it treats women, etc., it is one of the biggest growing religions. And I'm concerned about, I mean, I think the onus should be on the press to have responsible reporting. I think that's what really matters.
You think this is a media problem?
I think it's a media problem. I think it's very sad that Islam has to have a PR kind of a mission to kind of give itself a better name. Because the truth is, as Anne said, once you start talking to Muslims, although I disagree with a lot of some of their views on homosexuality and everything, when you start talking to them, you find a completely different side of Islam. And I think it's very sad. I think 5 times you brought up the Taliban. Now, there's a group in Uganda called the Christian Army.
Lord's People's Resistance.
Yeah, they're Christians, and they go around hacking people's heads off and arms off if they don't convert to Christianity. We don't bring them up every time we talk about Christianity.
I know you want to come in, but I'm really keen to hear what the audience think of this. Gentleman there.
Islam is a comprehensive way of life, socially, economically, and morally. But practice by some people are very bad, which they call themselves a Muslim, but they are not proper Muslims. We need PR to let people know what Islam stands for.
Okay, all right. Gentleman here.
First of all, my eldest son converted to Muslim, and every time I agree, Islam needs PR.
Were you happy about that when he converted?
Well, at the end of the day, he's 37-year-old. He's got his own mind, and that's what his outlook is. When he dies now, as a Muslim, he'll go to paradise. Well, who am I to take that away from him? But the point I was making, yes, they do need PR, and every time you hear Islam, it's bad. It's always bad. But there's good and bad in everybody, in Muslim and in British. And at the end of the day, you know, there's Muslims that won't give me the time of day. There's English people won't give me time of day. There's also Leeds United fans, a minority, won't even give me a good word.
It has to be said, this gentleman was determined to get Leeds United mentioned on the programme because he's a very avid fan.
Can I just pick up?
Maybe.
Like Benjamin, I mean, I spend much of my life, I'm a journalist, railing against other journalists who are Islamophobic or take ignorant or ill-informed views on Islam. And as I said last time I came on to condemn the media, but I would like to pick up something, Benjamin. Actually, I would slightly disagree with you. The focus should be on what wrong things are said by the media. But also, speaking as a Muslim, I believe my community does need to do much, much more to go out and speak out and learn how to deal with the media and learn how to express Islam. 9 years ago, I was a researcher on a programme like this, and I was asked, go out after 9/11 and find, my boss said, find a credible,
Maybe we're going to have to
Muslim
go, I'm afraid.
And there were none, but now
Yeah.
there are. Salma, Tamina, Christian.
As ever, our debates continue in the Message Board. Join us next week from Peter.